Hi, my name is Angie, and I'm here to introduce you to the Melbourne School of Psychological Sciences. The school was founded as a department in 1946, and in recent years we've been consistently rated in the top 10 schools of psychology worldwide. We have a large and diverse student cohort with over 2,000 students in our undergraduate, fourth year, and graduate diploma programs, and around 200 students in our professional and research postgraduate programs.
So psychology is a really broad discipline. It covers everything from systems neuroscience up to the high-level behavior evident in social interactions or clinical situations. In some sense, it's actually what you want to make of it. There are cognitive psychologists, there are social psychologists, there are developmental psychologists, organizational psychologists, quantitative psychologists, and of course, clinical psychologists. So there's a number of different ways you can study psychology at the University of Melbourne, and these all depend on where you're starting from. So if you have not yet done an undergraduate degree in anything, you can do an undergraduate degree in psychology. Alternatively, if you already have an undergraduate degree but not in psychology, then you could do the graduate diploma. Both these degrees or programs allow you then to apply for fourth year psychology, and once you've done fourth year psychology, this opens up a range of options. You can then apply for one of the clinical master's programs, the Masters of Clinical Psychology or the Masters of Clinical Neuropsychology, or you can apply for one of the research programs, the Masters of Research or the PhD, or even you could apply for a combined program where you do a combined PhD and one of the clinical master's programs.
Course structure sort of starts off generally and covers all of psychology and then examines each area in more detail. So in first year you take two courses, one in semester one, one in semester two. That covers every aspect of psychology, right from how a single neuron works in your brain up to how groups of people interact and what happens when they may not interact in a functional way. Second year you then do two courses in semester one, two in semester two, which takes each of those areas of psychology you learnt about in first year and examines them in more depth and more detail. In third year you do another two subjects and then two elective subjects, which mean that you can choose two things that you become particularly interested in. You examine some quite advanced statistical methodology so that you have a really clear understanding of how the research can actually inform human behaviour appropriately. And then you have a capstone course where all of those things you've learned are brought together into some kind of representation that links directly to your day-to-day life and the outside world, so you can see where psychology fits in everything else. A way of thinking about psychology in a way that we sort of present the first year course is to consider that you have an internal world. Everyone has their own unique version of the world. And in order to interact with everybody else and the rest of the world, we have to absorb an external world, turn it into something that we recognize and we can work with, and then interact with that external world. So what we do is we take each aspect of the course and ask you to consider it in terms of which part of that process that particular area relates to. They're all interrelated. It's an incredibly broad course, but it's also a very coherent course. We make a real effort to make sure that you can see where each bit fits together. And hopefully, when you leave the lectures or leave the department, what you do is you start to think about the things we've told you, and a lot of the students say that in fact, yes, they do think about the relationship between that world inside their head and everything else that's going on outside, and the world inside everyone else's head. There are a lot of psych students. In first year we have 1,200 undergraduate students wanting to do and doing psychology. We spend quite a lot of time making sure that even though there are 1,200 of you, you actually get a sense of being involved in the department and being involved with one another. You'll have tute groups where they're much smaller. There'll be 25 students. You'll get to know those students. We make you talk to each other. We make you get to know each other. We make you do group work so that you actually feel that you belong to something, even though there is that many of you. And it might surprise you that even in a lecture of 500, 600 students, there is actually a process of communication going on. So to actually be in that space is important rather than just sort of watching it from afar. As you go through the years, there are less and less students in your year, but there'll be people that you have known for 2 or 3 years. Such that by the time you reach third and fourth year, you genuinely feel part of the university and part of the department, and start to know the staff members, and I hope feel quite at home here. And many of our students want to stay on because they actually quite like it here.
When students graduate from one of our professional programs in psychology, they can register as a psychologist immediately upon graduation and go on to work in a number of different areas. Some students choose to work in public health settings, in hospitals. Some students might go on to work in private practice as a psychologist, and others might go on to pursue an academic career in an educational institution, for example. Hopefully this has helped you decide whether you'd like to pursue studies in psychology at the University of Melbourne. Please do feel free to contact us, and we hope to see you on campus.